My wife's scream snapped through the secure line like a blade. Lila was hurt. The mayor's son and his friends. The police chief mocking her in the background, calling me a truck driver, saying I couldn't save her. They had no idea the man they insulted commanded the deadliest unit alive. The moment the line went dead, I moved. No hesitation, no questions. My boots hit the concrete before my mind fully processed the anger burning through me. The forward operating base was silent except for distant rotor noise and men cleaning weapons, but everything around me blurred as I walked straight into the command building. I didn't request permission. I didn't explain. I simply told my commander I needed a war party. His eyes searched mine for 1 second, long enough to see the truth, the fury, and the reason. He didn't ask anything else. He authorized immediate deployment. Within minutes, my team assembled outside, 50 of the most lethal operators in the U.S. Army, men who moved without ego and executed without hesitation. Gear loaded, weapons primed, air support on standby. We lifted off before I could even think about what the mayor's son had done because thinking wasn't required. Action was. The helicopter blades shredded the air above us, drowning out every sound except mission focus. I briefed the team mid-flight, short and exact. Hostiles were civilians with power, protected by corrupt law enforcement. Rules of engagement were clear, non-lethal unless necessary, but I knew necessity wouldn't take long. The men listened quietly, their expressions unchanged, but the shift in their posture told me everything. They understood this wasn't politics. This wasn't negotiation. This was a direct extraction of justice. As we approached the town border, drone feeds streamed into our helmets, showing the mayor's estate, the police station, and the surrounding roads. My wife's last scream echoed somewhere in the back of my mind, but I pushed it aside. Emotion made hands shake. Mine didn't. When the helicopter descended into blackout altitude, I felt the familiar calm settle in. The kind that comes right before violence. The kind that makes every sound sharper, every movement cleaner. When boots hit the ground, the mission began, and every man responsible had just run out of time. We advanced through the tree line in a staggered formation, boots sinking into soft ground that absorbed our noise. Our movements were synchronized from years of operations where silence meant survival. Two teams broke off to establish perimeter overwatch, thermal scopes sweeping the entire property. The mayor's estate sat ahead, heavily lit, guarded only by local police who had no understanding of what was moving toward them. They carried sidearms and arrogance. We carried suppressed carbines and intent. I raised my fist. The line froze. Through my NVG feed, I saw two officers smoking near the side gate, relaxed, unaware that 50 operators were now 90 meters away. A quick hand signal. Two shadows detached from my left. Twin suppressed shots. The officers collapsed forward without a sound, cigarettes dropping from their fingers before their bodies hit the grass. We breached the outer fence using a hydraulic cutter wrapped in sound-dampening sleeves. Minimal noise. No alarms. No response. The mayor's house was large but poorly defended, an expensive structure built by a man who believed status was security. He had never met us. We carved through the backyard with smooth, forward momentum, spreading across the property like a silent storm. Two men approached the patio door, kneeling low as they applied a thermal pad to disable the sensor. Once the pad pulsed green, I signaled the next move. The lockpick gun worked fast. Door opened without resistance. A team slid inside with weapons raised, forming a funnel of steel and precision. I entered after them. The interior was quiet, too quiet. A kitchen to the left, a lounge to the right, security cameras on the ceiling. Useless. We had already looped the feeds. A low murmur echoed from deeper inside the house, voices arguing, pacing. I recognized one of them, the mayor's. Arrogant tone, sharp, dismissive. And then I heard another voice. Younger, nervous, the mayor's son. We moved toward the sound, navigating through the hallway in smooth formation, clearing corners with alternating sweeps. 2 operators split off to secure the east wing. Another 2 took the stairs. My team continued straight. As we approached the living room, I raised 2 fingers, stack formation. A breacher positioned himself on the right side of the doorframe. The rest of us aligned in a tight column. I pointed down. Silent breach. The breacher nodded and pressed the flex wedge under the door, lifting gently until the latch disengaged. The door pushed inward silently. Inside, the mayor stood near the fireplace, phone pressed to his ear, pacing in short, agitated steps. His son sat on the couch, head down, leg bouncing nervously. A third man, one of the friends, leaned against the bar counter, scrolling through his phone. None of them looked up. They had no reason to. They believed their world was untouchable. I stepped into the room. Weapons followed. The mayor froze mid-step. His son's eyes widened. The third boy dropped his phone, the clatter echoing across the room. I moved forward slowly, the suppressor of my rifle aligned directly with the mayor's chest. My team fanned out behind me, sealing exits, covering angles. The mayor stammered something about private property and law jurisdiction, but I cut him off by stepping closer. No threats, no shouting, no wasted words. I simply stated his full name and told him he was under immediate tactical detainment pending investigation into aggravated assault, obstruction, and federal-level interference in emergency communication. His face drained of color. He reached for his phone. A boot from my second operator pushed it across the floor. The mayor's son stood abruptly, hands shaking as he raised them. He started crying immediately. Not guilt, fear. The kind of fear rich boys never imagined they would feel. I ignored him and focused on the mayor. He tried to shift blame, tried to lie, tried to minimize. But lies don't move operators. Commands do. I secured his hands in flex cuffs, then ordered my team to isolate the boys. 2 operators pinned the third boy, including the one who hurt Lila, to the ground, securing him with a clean, controlled hold. Another operator cuffed the mayor's son and dragged him away from the couch. Their panic grew louder, but we didn't. We moved with quiet exactness, taking control of the environment with no wasted motion. The next phase required escalation. We gathered all 3 in the center of the living room. Kneeling, silent, terrified, a squad lead signaled all clear for the perimeter, no incoming police, no reinforcements, no neighbors awake. This was our window. The mayor tried to speak again. I didn't respond. I bent down until my face was inches from his and told him one sentence that froze him in place. "Where is the police chief?" His pupils shifted. He knew exactly what was coming. He also knew he had seconds to answer. The mayor's eyes shifted toward the hallway for barely half a second, but it was more than enough for me to know exactly where the police chief was. Guilt always looks in the direction of hiding places. I signaled 2 men with a flick of my wrist. They moved instantly, rifles raised, clearing the hallway with swift, silent footwork. I followed behind, keeping the mayor in my peripheral vision. His breathing grew faster. His shoulders tensed. His son sobbed in the living room. None of that mattered. This was not a negotiation. This was extraction. The hallway ended at a locked door, reinforced, too clean, too new. A panic room disguised poorly as a storage area. The breacher stepped forward, placing a thermal strip on the lock. The metal glowed faintly. My team formed a half circle around the doorway, rifles angled down but ready to rise the moment the door popped. The strip beeped once. The latch loosened. I pushed the door open with the muzzle of my weapon. The police chief was inside, not hiding, waiting. His arms were crossed, his expression smug, unbothered, confident in the shield that corruption had built around him for years. He didn't reach for a gun. He didn't call for help. He simply smirked and asked if we knew who he was. Operators don't answer rhetorical questions. I stepped in, closing the distance without hesitation. Two of my men followed, maintaining angles. The chief tried to talk his way out, insisting we had no authority, claiming political protection, saying everything was a misunderstanding. His voice was steady, but his hands betrayed him. Small tremors. The kind cowardice cannot control. I told him to put his hands behind his back. He refused. I used the butt of my rifle once, not to injure, just to eliminate options. He complied immediately, coughing, wheezing, fear finally cracking through his arrogance. We dragged him into the living room, dropping him beside the mayor. The room now held 4 men responsible for what happened to my daughter, 2 by action, 2 by power. They kneeled on the hardwood floor, flex cuffs tight, their eyes darting from weapon to helmet to door. The air felt thick with panic. My men stood around them in a circle, forming a wall of tactical precision that none of the detainees dared challenge. I knelt in front of the mayor's son. He couldn't even look at me. His face was blotched red, sweat dripping down his neck, breath shuddering as he tried to form excuses. I didn't want his excuses. I wanted information. I asked one question, where the other 2 boys were, the ones who had also touched my daughter. His lips trembled. He stuttered. He looked at his father. The mayor gave him a tiny shake of the head, warning him to stay quiet. That was a mistake. I grabbed the mayor by the collar and forced his face to the floor, pinning him down with the weight of my knee. My rifle never left my grip. His son broke instantly. He told me the names. He told me the locations. He told me which one recorded the assault. He told me which one laughed the most. He talked until his voice cracked. I stood up without responding. I didn't need to say anything. 2 men downloaded coordinates to their wrist pads. 2 more moved to the door. The next target was less than 5 minutes away. We didn't waste a second. 1 squad stayed to secure the detainees. Another squad moved with me to the vehicle staging point behind the estate. Engines silent, headlights off, vehicles modified to absorb sound. We slipped into them like shadows entering dark water. We arrived at the next location, a private cabin outside town, expensive, isolated, paid for by parents who believed distance erased consequences. I stepped out first. My boots hit gravel softly. The night air was cool, but my focus burned clean and steady. Through thermal imaging, we saw 3 heat signatures inside, 2 boys and a girl who was with them voluntarily. No threat, no concern. Our perimeter tightened around the cabin. Proceed. The door gave way after a single silent breach. We flooded inside with clean, rapid domination. The boys froze mid-movement, one holding a beer bottle, the other grabbing his phone. Both dropped everything when they saw us. One tried to run toward the back exit. 2 operators tackled him instantly, securing him with effortless precision. The other screamed and raised his hands, knees buckling as he fell backward. I approached him, rifle angled low. He kept repeating that he didn't know why we were there. I showed him the time-stamped video screenshot pulled from his own phone. His face lost all color. He fell to his knees without being told. His mouth opened as if to explain, but explanations were irrelevant. My men cuffed both boys and dragged them outside. The girl in the cabin was escorted out safely, disoriented but unhurt. We loaded the detainees into the transport vehicles and moved to the next location, an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial zone. We needed containment, interrogation, extraction of full evidence. My team executed the setup with clockwork efficiency. Cameras placed, lights calibrated, weapons positioned. Detainees separated to prevent crosstalk. The mayor's son broke first. He confessed everything, not for justice, not for remorse, for survival. His friends followed, collapsing under pressure like wet cardboard. They admitted the assault, the recording, the laughter, the police chief covering it up. The mayor paying witnesses to stay quiet. Every detail came out: names, dates, passwords, accounts, locations where evidence was stored. They gave us everything we needed, every file, every recording, every person involved. We transmitted all evidence to federal channels. Overnight, warrants were issued. The boys' families were pulled into investigations. The mayor's assets were frozen. The police chief's badge was revoked before sunrise. The next phase was cleanup. I returned to base with my men just before dawn, uniforms bloodless, weapons still warm, mission logs filled with precise, uncompromising execution. My hands did not shake. My voice did not tremble. I had completed what I came to do. Before dismissing the team, I said one sentence: mission fulfilled. And they nodded because they understood. Some missions save countries. Some missions save civilians. This mission saved my daughter. The boys begged for mercy. I had none. Federal agents hit the mayor's estate before sunrise, moving in a coordinated sweep that mirrored everything my unit had already executed hours earlier. My operators and I watched from a distance, perched on a ridge overlooking the town. Not because we needed to, but because I wanted full confirmation that the corruption shielding those boys was being dismantled in real time. Black SUVs surrounded the property. Agents stormed the gate. The mayor was pulled out in cuffs, shouting about power and status. None of it mattered. Evidence speaks louder than rank. He was escorted into a vehicle and driven away, his influence stripped in minutes. The police chief was next. His arrest was quieter but more satisfying. A team removed him from his home while he was still wearing his uniform shirt, badge clipped to his chest. He tried to claim jurisdiction again. The agents ignored him. They shoved him into the back of a van, doors slamming shut with a metallic finality that echoed across the street. The sound carried a message. His protection was gone. While the agencies handled their side, my unit remained in operational mode. Our work wasn't finished. 3 boys had been detained at the warehouse and handed over with complete evidence packs, but networks like this are rarely limited to the perpetrators themselves. There are always helpers, those who bury information, those who transport threats, those who clean up after the privileged. We moved to identify them with the same precision used on the primary targets. We began with digital forensics. One operator extracted the data from the phones we confiscated. Another analyzed cloud logs. Another traced VPN tunnels leading to off-grid storage accounts. Within 30 minutes, the screen illuminated with a new list of names. 4 additional individuals involved. A school board member, a judge's nephew, a businessman who provided vehicles, and a local reporter who deleted the assault report the night it was filed. All of them believed they were untouchable. None of them were. I divided the team into pairs. Each pair received coordinates, surveillance footage, and tactical constraints. The objective was straightforward: acquire cooperation or force compliance. We moved in silence, shifting across the town like a controlled storm. Our first stop was the businessman. He lived in a modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows and motion sensors that had never encountered a ghost unit. We bypassed them in seconds. He was detained without resistance. He crumbled before we said a word, surrendering financial records that proved he provided transportation for the boys that night. The judge's nephew was harder. He attempted to flee through a back entrance when we breached his apartment. 2 operators cornered him in the alley, subduing him with non-lethal force. His phone contained deleted messages detailing the moment they planned the assault. His cooperation was immediate once he realized escape was not possible. The school board member confessed under questioning that he had pressured Lila's school counselor not to escalate the case. He claimed fear of political backlash, retribution, loss of job. We recorded his confession, extracted copies of emails, and left him where federal agents would arrive shortly. The final contact, the reporter, was arrogant. He tried to lecture my team on freedom of speech and press protection. He tried to say his deleted report was an editorial decision. We projected the recovered footage onto his wall, the one he helped bury. His face drained as he watched. His excuses dissolved. He agreed to testify. By noon, the entire network surrounding the mayor's son had collapsed. We regrouped at the warehouse where the detainees were housed under tight guard. The boys were separated, but their behavior had changed. Panic replaced entitlement. Confessions spilled out in spirals. They wanted deals. They wanted forgiveness. They wanted anything that would reduce consequences. I remained silent, not out of vengeance, out of purpose. My mission wasn't to negotiate. It was to secure the truth and deliver justice. Federal ground units arrived to transfer custody formally. They transported the detainees in separate armored vehicles, preventing coordination or escape attempts. The mayor's son was the last one loaded. He cried. His father shouted. The police chief begged. Their world, once protected by political favors and wealth, folded like paper under the weight of real authority. Once they were gone, my unit performed a full sweep of the warehouse to ensure no evidence remained that could lead back to us. Operators wiped digital signatures, extracted gear, and reset all equipment positions. Within minutes, the site was clean. No trace of our presence except the ripple effect we left behind. The final stage of our mission required a return to the assault site, the abandoned road behind the bar where the attack occurred. I needed confirmation. Lila's scarf was still there, caught on a broken fence post, dirt-stained but intact. My men stood behind me in silent formation as I lifted it carefully. This was not sentimental. This was confirmation of location, confirmation of trajectory, confirmation that the evidence match was accurate. Operators documented the site with tactical precision. The scarf was sealed, cataloged, and prepared for the chain of custody. When the last piece of evidence was secured, I radioed the extraction signal. Helicopters arrived at high altitude, descending fast, kicking dust across the road. One by one, my men boarded, maintaining formation even in exit. When I stepped into the aircraft, I gave a simple nod to the pilot. No words, no review, no celebration. Mission cycles are not emotional events. They are completion events. We lifted off as the town shrank below us. The mayor behind bars, the police chief facing indictment. The boys awaiting charges, the accomplices exposed, the network destroyed, justice activated. But the mission wasn't done until I saw my daughter. The moment we touched down at base, I disembarked and walked directly to the transport truck waiting to take me home. My men dispersed for debrief. I didn't join them, there was no need. My commander already had the report. He approved the mission. He trusted the outcome. I arrived home before sunset. My wife opened the door with swollen eyes, fear still clinging to her. I stepped inside. She held on to me for several seconds, breathing in steady bursts. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. She only asked one question. Is it over? I nodded. Her knees softened with relief. She guided me inside where Lila lay in her room, bruised but alive, recovering slowly. I looked at her quietly, imprinting every detail into memory. My mission was not vengeance, it was restoration. She opened her eyes. She whispered, "Dad." I rested my hand on hers. It's done. I didn't tell her what happened. She didn't need to know. Justice delivered itself quietly. 3 days after the arrests, my commander called me back to base. Not for questions, not for discipline, for intel. A new file sat on the table in front of him, thick, sealed, marked with 2 indicators I had memorized long ago, classified and dangerous. He opened it without a word. Inside were surveillance photos, bank trails, encrypted messages, and recordings that exposed something the local authorities never realized. The mayor, the chief, and their sons were not acting alone. Their arrogance came from protection purchased from an organized network operating across 3 states. A network that ensured the wealthy and privileged escaped consequences while victims were silenced. The assault on Lila wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern, a system, and the arrests we made had disrupted that system violently enough to trigger movement among the higher players. He pointed to the last page in the file. A message intercepted by intelligence. Clean what he broke. Remove the girl. Make sure he disappears. He didn't need to explain. The people behind this were planning retaliation, not against me, against my family. A threat against an operator's family is an automatic trigger for escalation. I requested operational authority. He granted it immediately. Within 2 hours, the ghost unit reassembled in the briefing bay, geared for a covert strike. We were not dealing with teenagers, politicians, or local police now. We were dealing with traffickers of influence, handlers, enforcers, and professional cleaners. People who had eliminated evidence and witnesses for years. People who were about to attempt the same against Lila. We moved fast. Intel placed the network's regional cell in an abandoned textile plant 30 miles outside town. Satellite feeds showed movement, heat signatures, vehicles, secondary lookouts, sniper nests positioned on rusted catwalks. The threat level had shifted from low to lethal, exactly the level we were trained for. We inserted at twilight, fast-droping down from a silent rotary-wing aircraft that hovered barely long enough for deployment. The air was thick with dust and the smell of rusted machinery. We spread out instantly, forming 4 elements designed to strike simultaneously at multiple entry points. My team advanced along the north wall, keeping low behind concrete barriers. 2 men scaled the roof to neutralize the sentries. Their suppressed shots dropped the guards before they could reach their radios. Inside, heavy footsteps moved. A generator hummed. The sound of metal scraping against metal echoed deep within the structure. They were preparing for transport, likely evidence, weapons, or the individuals ordered to clean what we broke. We breached. The door folded inward under a hydraulic ram. Flashless stun grenades rolled across the floor, erupting in silent bursts of white light that disoriented but did not warn the perimeter. We flowed through the opening like liquid force, rifles up, sights aligned, clearing the room with methodical precision. 3 armed men raised weapons. They didn't get to fire. Suppressed rounds ended their resistance in seconds. We pushed deeper. Industrial corridors stretched long and narrow. Operators moved in stacked formations, checking corners, sweeping blind spots, maintaining momentum. We reached a set of reinforced double doors, likely the central meeting area. 2 operators planted breaching charges the size of a coin. The wall shook with a contained blast that forced the doors open without echoing outside. Inside were 9 men seated around a metal table covered with cash, cell phones, documents, and a map of the town. They reached for weapons. They shouted orders. They attempted to scatter. We neutralized them before their chairs even tipped backward. 2 surrendered instantly. 1 dropped his weapon and froze. Another fell to his knees, hands raised, eyes wide with panic. We secured them, zip-tied hands behind backs, and scanned the room for intel. Laptops were seized, hard drives removed. A box filled with burner phones was confiscated. Every item represented a thread leading to the upper structure of the operation. But the real threat, the one who gave the order to eliminate my daughter, was not in the room. A thermal signal appeared on our HUD, deeper inside the plant. 2 signatures, 1 crouched, 1 pacing. Command identified 1 heat outline as cleaner, a specialist used to erase evidence and people. The other appeared smaller, bound, unmoving. We advanced instantly. The corridor leading to them was narrow, lit only by flickering bulbs. Our footsteps were silent. Our rifles remained raised. When we reached the door, I signaled for a mirror sweep. 1 operator slid a camera beneath the door. The image was clear: 2 men, 1 armed, 1 tied to a chair. A hostage, and not one of theirs, a local witness, someone who had seen too much. The cleaner pressed a knife to the captive's throat. I signaled breach. The door exploded inward as 3 operators stormed the room. The cleaner swung his weapon toward us, but he never got the chance to fire. 2 suppressed rounds struck center mass. He collapsed instantly. Another operator cut the hostage's restraints, pulled him to safety, and covered his escape. We extracted him through the back alley, sending him with a protective detail to a secure location. Next objective: leadership. The mastermind, the one giving orders, operated from a separate compound. A farmhouse on a hill outside the industrial zone. He would have received word by now that his cell was compromised. That meant one thing: he was preparing to flee. We pursued. Two tactical vehicles moved along a dirt road in blackout mode, engines masking sound. We dismounted several meters away to approach on foot. Drones overhead showed movement in the house, two men packing documents, another burning files in a steel drum outside, and the target pacing with a phone pressed to his ear. We closed in. The first guard spotted shadows moving and raised his rifle. He didn't get off a shot. The second guard fired wildly into the dark, his muzzle flash giving away his position. Two operators flanked him and subdued him without lethal force. I approached the house directly. The target tried to escape through the back exit. One of my men intercepted him, forcing him to the ground and securing his hands. He struggled, he shouted, he threatened. None of it mattered. He was detained. Inside the house we located detailed logs, money transfers, blackmail records, surveillance notes, lists of victims, lists of officials who accepted bribes, and encrypted communication proving the mayor and chief were part of a larger protection chain. We seized everything. The farmhouse was swept clean. Every bit of corruption laid bare. Extraction was initiated. We transported the target and evidence containers to a secured federal handoff point. The commanding agent reading the initial logs looked stunned. He had not expected a network this large, this organized. But I wasn't surprised. I had seen systems like this before overseas. This one simply chose the wrong family. When everything was signed over, cataloged, and confirmed, my men stood beside me in a straight line. Mission posture, mission focus. My commander approached, assessing each detail without emotion. "Ghost unit," he said. "Mission complete." I saluted. My men saluted. We boarded the extraction vehicle and left the site behind. Another network destroyed. Another threat neutralized. But my mission wasn't over yet. There was still one thing I needed to do: return home and guarantee that no one would ever touch my daughter again. Back at base, the hangar lights glowed dim orange against metal floors still vibrating from the last rotor wash. My men began gear reset automatically, their movements quiet, efficient, practiced. No celebration, no commentary, just the silent momentum that follows a successful strike. I left them to it and walked straight to the command center, where the debrief room was already set with a screen displaying incoming intel feeds. The farmhouse takedown, the industrial plant sweep, the arrests, they triggered chain reactions across the state. Communications among the remnants of the criminal network spiked. Some were fleeing. Some were scrambling to destroy evidence. Some were calling their political contacts for protection. None of it mattered. Once the ghost unit engages, there is no outrunning the aftermath. My commander stood beside the console with arms folded, his gaze fixed on the scrolling data. He didn't look up when I entered. He didn't have to. He simply said, "It's not done." I stepped beside him and reviewed the files. Satellites showed movement on a rural airstrip 60 miles east, one that was not registered for public use. A private jet sat on the tarmac with engines warming. 3 armed men loaded crates into the cargo hold, documents, electronics, and cash. The pilot paced nervously near the cockpit stairs. A black SUV was parked beside the plane with a single individual inside. The heat signature matched one thing: the remaining financier of the operation, the highest-ranking collaborator still free, the man funding everything, the man enabling the mayor, the man who paid for the chief's silence, the man who had ordered retaliation on my daughter. This was the final target. I didn't ask for authorization. The commander didn't offer it. He simply handed me the operations tablet with the mission parameters already open. Silent approval, silent understanding. I signaled my men. Within minutes, we were airborne again, flying low under radar bands, the night sky cutting sharp lines across the helicopter's windows. My team sat in 2 rows, helmets down, rifles across laps, bodies steady with controlled purpose. No one spoke. They didn't need to. This was a termination strike in all but name. The objective was capture, but every operator in the bird knew the truth. If the financier resisted, there would be no warnings, no negotiations, only neutralization. We neared the airstrip under total blackout. Drones streamed live feeds into our helmets. The SUV door opened. The financier stepped out wearing a tailored suit, holding a briefcase, walking like a man whose money had always kept him above consequence. He glanced around, confident the guards he hired would protect him. They wouldn't. They couldn't. They weren't prepared for what was descending on them. We fast-roped down into tall grass 30 meters from the runway. The wind from the helicopter flattened the blades around us, then vanished as the aircraft lifted away to hold pattern above. My men formed a perimeter instantly, moving through the field like controlled shadows converging on a single point. I raised my hand. We halted. The financier spoke to his guards. They scanned the area lazily, unaware the threat was already inside their perimeter. I signaled advance. We hit them simultaneously from 3 angles, north, west, and south. Suppressed fire dropped the first 2 guards before they realized they were under attack. The third attempted to retreat toward the plane. 2 operators intercepted him, neutralizing him with a clean double tap. The 4th guard fired blindly into the darkness, muzzle flash giving away his position. A single shot from Overwatch ended his attempt. The financier froze beside the SUV. We emerged from the grass, rifles trained, advancing with calculated steps. His face went blank, the expression of a man whose world has finally shown him its limits. He dropped the briefcase. Papers scattered across the ground. He raised his hand slowly, offering money immediately, promising influence, protection, deals, anything. His voice shook. His confidence evaporated. His power dissolved the moment he realized money could not negotiate with men like us. I ordered him to kneel. He complied instantly. 2 operators cuffed him, searched him, and secured him beside the SUV. The pilot attempted to run toward the cockpit. 1 operator caught him, pressing his face to the fuselage and disarming him before he could shout for help. The crates were seized. The plane was grounded. The threat was contained. But the mission wasn't complete until we recovered everything. We pried open the crates. Inside were hard drives, encrypted tablets, bank ledgers, payoffs to officials, surveillance videos, names of other victims, internal communications proving federal crimes that would dismantle dozens of people who had enabled abuse for years. Every piece of corruption was carefully logged, cataloged, and prepared for secure transport. We secured the perimeter, then executed final protocol sweeping the airstrip for additional threats. None remained. The financier was loaded into a transport vehicle. The crates were transferred into a second armored truck. I radioed the extraction bird. As we lifted off, the airstrip receded into darkness, swallowed by the night. The financier stayed silent the entire flight. He didn't ask where we were taking him. He didn't plead. He simply stared forward, knowing nothing he could say would matter. We arrived at a federal drop site, isolated, reinforced, heavily guarded. Agents received the detainee and evidence containers with visible shock at the scope of what we had collected. Everything was signed, sealed, documented. Federal custody assumed. Criminal network destroyed. Mission finished, but not for me. For the first time in days, I removed my helmet fully and exhaled, not relief. Release of tension held through continuous operations. I left the base again, walking out into the quiet, cold air. A vehicle waited to take me home. I got inside. The driver didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence was familiar. I arrived at my house after midnight. The lights were low. My wife sat in the living room waiting for me, her hands clasped in her lap. She looked up the second I stepped through the door. This time, she didn't ask a question. She simply nodded, the subtle, steady nod of someone who knows the danger has passed because she trusts the hands that removed it. I went to Lila's room. She slept peacefully, breathing in slow, even rhythms. The bruises were fading. Her wound dressings were clean. Her heartbeat was calm. She was safe now, permanently. No one connected to that network would ever touch her again. No one would ever threaten her again. No one would ever come for my family again. I stood there quietly, not speaking, not thinking, not remembering, just confirming a simple truth. Mission accomplished means the threat is gone, forever. I stepped out of her room and closed the door softly behind me. The ghost unit eliminates enemies in foreign countries. Tonight, we eliminated them at home. No mercy, no hesitation, no apology. Because when a threat targets an operator's family, the ending is not justice. The ending is eradication.